Good afternoon and welcome to our regular Friday masterclass. Now, if you're watching us live now, please let me know that you're here. Put a comment below, say hello, and you know the rules. If you're watching later on replay, #replay. Let me know you've seen the video. Thank you very much. Now, because of the way we're filming again, I can't see the screen, so I'll be looking at my iPad in a moment to make sure we're live and see who's watching us today. So today we are talking about budgets. Now, on the face of it, not the most exciting topic, but I want to change your mind about that today, and I want you to leave this session knowing how exciting your budget is and what it can do for your life. Yes, I can see we're live. That's great. Thanks very much. And who's watching? Great. Thank you. Sorry about the door sliding there. We're trying to keep the cats out. Right, so we're going to talk about budgets, and I want you to leave today thinking, right, budgets are exciting. I get it now. I see why they're not boring, and I'm excited to go and create a budget that's going to be my roadmap to my financial freedom, because that's what it is if you get it right. So let me tell you more. So this is what I hear a lot of people say. Budgets are boring. I mean, just the word is boring. We tend to think about the Chancellor and his budget, and it's just one of those things, I think, like accounts and accountants and all these things we've talked about before, where they've been made very boring when actually they're about the most exciting thing ever. It's about our future and our money. The budget is just your money, like when we talk about accounts. Now, a lot of people feel, oh, I'm going to be constrained by the budget, or it's a long, laborious process to put one together, and it's just, soul-sucking really. But I want to show you the way I do budgets and how different and how exciting it is when you take a completely different approach to doing your budget. Because when you get it right, your budget is a detailed roadmap to your future. It's a detailed roadmap to actually getting you financial freedom, as opposed to just repeating year after year after year in your business, hoping that one day it all pans out somehow. So let me see what we've got. Who's commented? I can't see. Never mind. I'll look at that later. So let me tell you what is wrong with most budgets and the way that most people are doing their budgets. And this goes for small companies, large companies, but there's something about the way budgets are done at the moment, the way budgets are seen, that really gives them quite bad press, really. So most of them are, let's face it, really boring. They're normally set by the accountant. They don't involve the business. They're just not lively. They're not interesting. They can feel quite restrictive to people across the business. They can feel like they're being boxed into what they've got to do, what they can't do, what they can and can't spend. And often they're not used, or not used in a really useful way. So you maybe prepare your budget at year end or before the year end, but then maybe it doesn't get used into the business. It's not integrated with the financial reporting. It's not used to inform decision making. It's not used as a measurement tool to see where you are. Here's the really big one for me. It's not connected to the vision of the business and your personal vision for your life. It's something normally prepared in isolation without any connection to where we're actually trying to get to, bigger picture. It's very top line led as normally as well, which means it's set by a sales figure. It's driven by the sales figure. And what a lot of people do is they say, what did we do last year? Well, let's try and add 10%, 20% to the top line and see where we end up. And I'm going to explain to you why we need to tip that on its head, because that approach never works well. It never gives you a budget that you're excited by, and it's never going to give you the results you want on the bottom line. So we have to change that approach. Not to mention, it's really lazy as well. It's the laziest possible approach to budgeting, of just decide the sales number and just cascade down and see what happens. They're not inspiring. Hands up who has got or who has had or worked in a company where the budget was seen as a tool of inspiration, and it was used to get people really excited about what was going on, because I have to say I don't see that very often. And it's often used as a stick to beat people with. You missed budget, you did this, you overspent, you didn't hit your margin target. Now, it's great to use it as a measure, but we shouldn't use it as a stick to beat people up with, because that's never going to get people to engage with it in a useful way. And it's not part of a journey. So when we talk about not connected to the vision, it's not seen as a step-by-step part of the journey to get you to financial freedom. It's usually seen as just 1 year's budget, 1 year's budget, 1 year's budget, which is, again, it's just not helpful in getting you where you want to be. You've got to see your budget as this year's step in the journey to where you want to go. And the budget is often soon forgotten. So we prepared the budget and then maybe it doesn't get incorporated in the reporting, but month 2, 3, 4, the budget is long gone. We've forgotten all about that. What were we thinking? We're miles off. Let's just ignore the budget and let's see where we go. And it's often just prepared as 1 year in isolation with no regard for last year or next year or 5 years' time or the life that you are trying to build for yourself. So, and here's what I also hear a lot. I don't need a budget. My business is too small. My business is too new. I don't want to be boxed in by a budget. I want to be free to be creative and to take advantage of opportunities as they come up. I don't want to be boxed into that traditional kind of corporate feeling, really, that structure that's going to mean I can't move and I haven't got any freedom this year. So what I want to say to that is, are you happy to just trundle along blindly without a roadmap, without knowing you've got a plan that's connected to your vision? Are you happy to just keep getting random results? And are you happy just to keep ending up with whatever you end up with? And I have a bit of an analogy on this. Imagine that you were planning a year travelling the world. It was an amazing trip. You've been saving up for it. It was really, really important to you. And one approach would be is, tell you what we'll do. We'll just turn up at the airport and we'll see where we can get a flight to. And we'll make it up as we go along. And we'll just see where we go. And if we find a hotel, we find a hotel. If we find the next place to go, we do. As opposed to saying, right, we want this year to be amazing. We are going to plan the countries we want to go to. We're going to plan how we're going to get there. We're going to plan the hotels we want to stay in. We're going to plan what we want to go and see. At the end of that year, you will have had a phenomenal year having done what you wanted to do, rather than the make it up as you go along approach where, you may have had a great time, but it's going to have been random. And it wasn't part of the plan. Now, you may prefer that first approach, in which case that's absolutely fine. You can do whatever you want with your own business, but don't expect it to lead you where you want to get to, because it's just quite unlikely to happen that way. Business is hard enough to get the results we want by sabotaging ourselves, by choosing not to have a plan. So, I hope I'm making my case here. So, there is a very good reason why the most successful companies do in fact have budgets. And the inverse of that is true as well. The least successful companies don't have budgets. There's a very direct line between those two scenarios. But see, done well, if you do your budget really well, it will create the roadmap to your financial freedom. So when you're thinking about your budget, you're creating a financial freedom budget. You're creating the plan that is going to get you those results. And I want you to think of it, rather than being a 1 year budget in isolation, it's a series of stepping stones to the future that you want. So if this is where you are now, and we know this here is the future that you want and the life that you want, I want you to think of each year's budget. It's a stepping stone. It's part of this journey to get us where we want to be. So each year needs to be considered in this bigger context of the plans we've created for our future and the vivid vision we've created for our life. Because you can see, if you just take last year, add 10% onto your sales figure and see what happens, that's not going to get you over there. It's just not going to happen, which is why we see so many small business owners ending up at the end of their career after 10 or 20 years saying, yeah, I haven't got enough in my pension and I can't sell my business, and gee, things didn't turn out the way I thought they would, because you didn't create a plan. You didn't know where you wanted to go, so you didn't know where to go and what to do, what actions to take, what opportunities to take, what opportunities to turn down, what things to say yes, what things to say no to. If you haven't got a plan, it's all just made up. So I want to talk you through the elements of creating an awesome budget that will be inspiring and exciting and connected to your vision for your life. So first of all, you have got to know what you want. What do you want for your life? What do you want to earn? What do you want to have as a lump sum when you get to retirement? What do you want to sell your business for? What life do you want to live along the way? What dividends do you need? Where do you want to live? Where do you want your kids to go to school? And that brings us into vivid vision. Now, you hear me talk about vivid vision a lot. I think it's the most powerful tool I've personally ever seen for creating a map for your future that is truly exciting and engaging and drives you every day to get what you want. So without those two things of knowing what you want, how could you possibly expect to create a budget at that level that's going to move you in that direction? So it's critical that you work these things out first. And then I want you to think about putting the big rocks in first. Now, if we take the current traditional scenario of take last year's sales figure, stick 10% on top, see what we end up with. Can we afford to do this? Can we afford to do that? It creates a very narrow, constricted budget, and it won't take you on that stepping stone journey. So put those big rocks in first. What do I want to earn dividend-wise? What do I want and need to put into my pension fund to get me where I want to be by a certain date? What things do we need to invest in strategically? Do we need to bring a key person into the business? Do we need to create some new technology? Do we need to buy new property? Do we need to invest in new vehicles? Do we need to invest in training? Because if you don't put those in first, they will always be those kind of discretionary items that we'll try and do if we can afford it. Put them in first, because we need to find a way to afford them rather than hoping we can afford them at the end. So know your end result before you start. So I call this I don't call it, it is called bottom-up budgeting, where we start with the bottom figure of what we want our net retained profit to be after tax, after dividends. So we know what that figure needs to look like at the end, rather than starting with sales and going like, oh, because what happens is people go, oh, well, that figure's not enough. Let's just put the sales up without any plan of how they're going to achieve it. And all of that is completely missing out the strategy and the piece about where you actually want to go. This is the kind of stuff that we very specifically teach all through our Academy membership program. It's literally how you create this, how you create your budget, and how you start to map out how you're going to achieve that life you're looking for. Now, when we go bottom up instead of top down, and we put those big rocks in first of what we want to earn, what we want in our pension, what we want our net retained profit to be, and what strategic things we want to do this year, we start to ask better questions. So rather than saying, oh, well, we can't afford to do that, or oh, we better just sell more then, hadn't we? We can start asking how questions. How do we afford that? How do we improve gross margin by, say, 2 or 3%, because that will give us this much money? How do we increase our sales more significantly? What do we need to invest in to do that? Because any idiot can stick a top line in that's unachievable. Any idiot can go, well, we just need to add 50% onto sales, don't we? That's not clever, and it won't work. You've got to ask those really good how questions of, if we want to do these things, how do we get to do them? If we need to improve sales, to what level, and how will we do that? Is our route to market strong enough? Is our marketing good enough? Is our selling good enough? Because if we don't ask those questions, we never resolve the underlying issues that are going to keep holding our businesses back. You know, how do we want the year to be? Do we want it to be a year of growth? I mean, we always want to have a year of growth, don't we? You know, personal growth, business growth. But what do we want it to look and feel like when we get to the end of that 12-month period? And so I've made the point here, do not start with sales, because that is never going to get you the result you're looking for. And I want people to stop ending up with what they end up with and start creating and crafting what you want your bottom line to be. So any questions on that? I can't see the questions at the moment. I'll come back to that. So let's think about creating your future. Now, there's two aspects to this, and I talk a lot about connecting back together your personal with your business. Too often in business, these things are just separated out and seen as two distinctly different things. And most accountants are always coming at things from the point of view of like, how is your business doing? What's your business performance? But I know that we, as business owners, we are our business. They are completely interlinked. They are indistinguishable from each other. We are our business. So we need to be thinking our personal goals and our business goals, they've all got to merge together. So if you want to, I don't know, earn all this money to have great holidays, or to help your family, or to set up a charity, or to live in a certain place, it's about making sure your business is lined up to make those things possible for you, which means making the right level of profit, paying you the right level of income, putting enough into your pension. So it's really important that before you even start to bandy the idea of a budget around, you've got clarity on what you want. And if you're thinking, I haven't got time to think about that, I just want you to think about every month, quarter, year you go by with no clarity on what you want, you're potentially wasting that time because you don't know if you're running in the right direction. But I may have shared this with you before, so if I have, just forgive me. A client of mine came on one of my retreats maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, and at the end of the weekend he was quite upset, and he said, I've just realised now that I've stopped to think for a couple of days, I've been running at 100 miles an hour in completely the opposite direction to the one I wanted to go for the life I want. A life that allows me to see my family and my wife and my children, not to be away all the time. I've been running to a business plan that someone else created for me, and it wasn't the life I wanted. So if you think you haven't got time to stop and think about those, just think about how many years you might waste running in the wrong direction if you don't. And just on this note as well, don't let somebody else set your budget. It's as helpful as accountants are, it's no point in them saying, hey, I'll do your budget for you, because they're going to take that kind of last year's sales add 10% approach. It's got to come from you. This is such a personal thing. It really is. So it's fine to get them to put it together for you once you've told them what you want in it, but don't let anybody else set your budget for you, because it's no one else's place but you. And if you abdicate that to somebody else, do not be surprised if you don't end up with what you wanted at the end of it. So we need to think about these things when we're creating the future and creating the things we want to come into our budget. So firstly, how much profit do we want to make? And that's net, clear, cash profit at the end of the year. And remember my rule for that, at least 10%, at least. And if you're a people business, like an agency or professional services, we're looking for more like 20% on that. So the percentage is very important, because it's how much as a proportion of our profit we're actually keeping in our business, making our cash balance stronger, making our balance sheet stronger. Remember, we talked all about balance sheets last week. Dividends are how much do you want to earn? Something that's incredibly common in small companies is people go year after year after year after year and they haven't put their dividends up. They've just left the direct debit or standing order in place, and they're earning the same as they earned last year, year before. In fact, another quick story, one of my clients, they realised through my coaching sessions with them, they hadn't put their dividends up for 10 years. And when we actually went through and worked out the cumulative inflation effect alone of what they'd lost, they were down £90,000. £90,000 just if they'd put their dividends up by inflation, let alone pay rises for being better at what they do. And that was a real wake-up call for them, because they realised that they'd spent years and years and years kind of going backwards and losing money. How much do you want in your pension? Now, so we've talked before about knowing your X number. You have to know as a business owner where you're heading. So how much money do I need in my pension fund? Therefore, as a general rule, we're only going to get our future if our business makes it for us, unless, of course, we win the lottery or inherit some money. But by and large, it's got to come from our business. So what do I need to put into my pension this year? And rather than saying what a lot of people do you know what, I'll leave it for now and I'll see what I can afford at year end. What do you think's going to happen? If you haven't made your business have to afford your pension, you probably won't get as much in as you thought or you'd want to. Or you go like, do you know what, I can't really afford to do it this year. Maybe next year. But if we treat this as one of our big rocks that must go in the plan first, we then ask a better question of like, how do I make enough money to afford that pension? Okay. And things like business value. So if you watched our Barry Lee interview yesterday afternoon, it's all about how to build value into your company. You need to be thinking about that when you're setting your budget. What things make my business valuable? What kind of contracts, what kind of customers, what are the things that will make my business valuable? Not just in case I want to sell, but for me. For the fact that I want to run a well-run business that makes good profit and makes good cash. Investments, so thinking about what things do you need to invest in, like we talked about on the previous page. Do I need to invest in proper marketing? Do I need to invest in people? And learning and personal growth comes into this. This is, I think, quite underrated in small companies and incredibly important. Too many business owners put themselves last when it comes to their professional learning or their personal development. A business cannot grow beyond your skill set as the business leader. So if you are not investing in yourself and you are not investing in new skills and learning new stuff and growing who you are as a leader, learning your financial skills, all these things, a business will be constrained by your level of knowledge and your level of skill. So investing in learning and growth for yourself and for your team. I mean, I spend probably around $20,000 a year on personal growth, which is a big chunk out of my budget, but it's a big rock that goes in first. And then I say, I'm committed to my growth. I'm committed to becoming the best I can be. How do I afford it? Rather than saying, can I afford it? It's like that has to happen. For me, it's a non-negotiable to keep growing and to keep learning. So it has to go in the budget, and then I work out how I pay for it. Because I know if I grow, my business can grow as well. If I don't grow, my business stays stuck. And I proved that in the first 12 years of my business career. You know, I had a business partner who didn't believe in these things, and we kind of stayed quite stuck. And once I was free from then, I started investing, my business started growing. So very direct correlation between those things. But here's the thing, I don't want you to just chase the profit. So I talked about being very focused on your bottom line net cash profit for your year. Whilst that is, of course, incredibly important because profit equals cash, retained profits equal growth in your balance sheet value, growth in your cash position. If we just chase the profit, we can make kind of dysfunctional short-term decisions. I'll give you an example. I've got a client at the moment who is obviously very focused on his net profit. It's been a tough year for everybody. But within our budget for the year, we've got quite a hefty investment line in the profit and loss account. So we know we want to invest in a certain sort of technology. And we had the conversation in the board meeting around, yeah, but if we don't spend that money, we'll improve the profit figure. And my argument was, yes, but we need to invest in that thing because it's the right thing to do for the business and it will make us stronger next year and in the long term will be a better business. So sometimes if we're just chasing the profit, we can cut off some of those things that are going to give us the leverage and going to make our business bigger and stronger in the future. So do the right things for the long term. Obviously, as long as you can afford it, you know, don't make a loss over it. Building cash, so sometimes we might say, you know, the priority is really, really building cash. So it might be just a maximising on that profit figure. So especially if you haven't got your buffer cash put away yet or you haven't got your taxes put away yet, the focus is on making net profit and keeping it so that will turn into cash and give you that protection. So it might be something like our marketing doesn't work well. Now, if we don't invest in our marketing and get our route to market nailed and get our marketing process nailed, we are never going to be able to scale our sales figure. So things like, you know, do we actually put some of our profit into that this year, smash it, nail it, then next year or later in the year, we know that we'll be able to go out and get the sales we need to do all those things that we want to do in the business. You know, underinvesting in financial control is another big problem we see in small companies. You know, people going, oh, that's just dead money. You know, they don't add anything to the business. If you underinvest in financial control, you're going to have big problems as you try and scale your business. And think about business value as well. What are the right things to do that create value for the business rather than being too short term about just chasing the profit figure? Okay. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of how to make your budget exciting. I just want to recap those areas for you. Number one, you've got to have a budget, okay? If you want a future that you want, if you have dreams and plans that you want to achieve and you want financial freedom, which we all do in this group, you've got to have a budget. It's that simple. Without a budget, you've got no plan, you've got no roadmap, you are literally making it up as you go along. And I think we can all agree that is never going to get you exactly where you want to be. Never think that you are too small to have a budget or think that it is too soon. Even if you've only just started out, I don't care. You need a plan, especially when you're starting out, because goodness me, it's so random when you've just started out. There are so many things coming from left field. You know, your plan might keep changing and that's fine. The thing about a budget is you keep changing it throughout the year to reflect what's going on. You've got to keep it very live and very responsive to circumstances. But do have a plan. It's like you know, the age-old analogy of an aeroplane when it's flying. It's got its route map set, it's got the autopilot on, but over the course of the journey it's going way off track and course correcting all the time. But at least it's got a plan. It hasn't just said, well, I'll take off and head roughly north and hope we hit where we want to be. They've got a very detailed plan laid out to get there. remember that your budget is a stepping stone in that journey to get you where you want to be. It's not something we just set for the year. We've got to be thinking bigger picture. How does this fit in with our strategy and our plan? Know what you want. You can't create a budget to take your business in a direction if you have no idea what that direction is or what you're trying to achieve. Make sure your budget is bottom up and not top down. Don't start with the sales figure. Put those big rocks in first. Make sure you know what you want to achieve and ask better questions to work out what your sales figure and what your gross margin need to be to give you the result you're looking for. And I promise you, by asking better questions, you'll come up with ideas you've never thought of before, because you're asking something different of your brain. Focus on the long term as well as looking at the profitability for the year. So make sure you're mindful of strategic things, mindful of things you need to invest in. Because I see this so often, I can't tell you, where businesses are making that continual short-term decision making. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, they still haven't got marketing sorted. They still don't know route to market. They still haven't got marketing process. They've got people without the skills they need to run the business properly. The owner hasn't left the office, wants to invest in any training. And you'll just keep having the same year. You don't get to grow. You don't get that progression. And you won't get to make the kind of profit and pension contributions that you are going to need to secure your future. So be strategic about setting your budget. Now, I hope you can feel something different from listening to that, rather than just, hello, I'm going to talk about budgets today. It's not about that. The budget should be exciting. It should be like, oh my God, that's my year. That's my year. I am so excited to go out and make that happen. So let me know if you've got any comments in the feed. I'm going to try and get my iPad to work now, and hopefully I can, oh goodness me, come on. Hopefully I can find out what's going on. 17 comments, okay. Goodness me, bear with. Joys of being live, eh? Oh. Right, now we're there. Comments. Right. Oh, John, good one. Yes, so as a professional, you're obliged to take 25 hours a year of continuous professional development. Brilliant. I would say then that's not probably enough, is it? We need to spend quite a lot of time keeping ourselves sharp. Hi, Claire. Hi, Gavin. Yeah, I'd say on Gavin Jones, great idea on the Barry Lee session. Let's do a session on those key points of what made the business more valuable. Definitely. Thank you, Clay. Like the jacket. Aim to please. Sat nav for the business. Absolutely, Claire. That's what it is. What it is. And James, the title budget is totally misleading. Yes, James, it is, isn't it? And I use the word budget because that's what we kind of recognise it as. But the word budget is not very helpful, is it? I like maybe roadmap or... but yeah, don't be, I guess, disheartened by the word budget, about how sort of depressing that can be. This really is about you making something very, very exciting for your business. So unless anyone else has got any more comments, I will let you go and enjoy your Friday afternoon. Yes, Yvonne, you'll notice no socks this week. I've changed the angle of the camera. So you can't see my socks. Gavin, wish you'd had these 20 years ago. Yeah. Roadmap. Love it. Well, guys, I hope that you're going to go away and do something different as a result of today. I would absolutely love to hear what impact this has had on you, how you might go and change things, how differently you're going to go and do your budgets, because I would just... Oh, Deborah, hello, lovely to see you. Yeah, I would love to know, we're doing these sessions, we're running the group, and I'm really, you know me, I'm doing this because I want to make a difference. I want to help you guys build better businesses, have a better future, and really, nail that financial freedom that we're all looking for. So please give me some feedback on what you're going to do differently. And I'm going to give you a break next week because I'm having a week off. Thank goodness. Obviously, it's bank holiday next Friday, so you get a week off. I would say if you haven't yet caught up on the balance sheet and the profit and loss sessions from the last 2 weeks, go and do those because they're absolutely foundational for you understanding your business finances. Yes, there's an IFA in the group. Is there an IFA? Yes, there is actually. James, I'll introduce you. Paul Armstrong, who I think you know. Hi, Sue. Lovely to see you. Yes, you are very late. I'll catch you later. So, guys, have an awesome weekend. Fantastic. Thank you for turning up. And I will see you all actually. So, a week on Monday, I'll be back in the group. No, that's bank holiday too. week on Tuesday. So have a great weekend, great Easter, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.